It all began as a harmless prank, something meant to get a few laughs. My husband, Mark, was always the life of every gathering, the one cracking jokes, pulling silly stunts, and turning every serious moment into something light. So when our group of friends and I decided to play a little joke on him during a picnic, it seemed fitting. We were only a few miles from home, and as we packed up, someone joked, "Let's leave Mark behind for a bit. See how long it takes him to notice." Everyone laughed. I hesitated for a second, but then shrugged it off. "He'll just laugh when he finds us a cafe," I said, grinning as we drove away. We expect him to call within minutes, probably laughing, saying, "Nice try, guys." But the call never came. By nightfall, the laughter had faded. When he didn't come home, I brushed it off at first. Maybe he was trying to turn the joke back on us. Maybe he'd gone to a friend's place to make us sweat a little. "He'll be home by morning," I told everyone, forcing a smile. But morning came, and his phone was still off. By noon, unease had turned to panic. I called the police, but they told me to give it time. Sometimes people just needed space. But that wasn't Mark. For all his goofiness, he was never cruel or vindictive. He would never just disappear. The search started the next day. His car was still parked where we left it, but his backpack was inside the trunk. No phone, no wallet, no sign of him in the nearby woods. I joined the search team, shouting his name until my throat burned. Every time I thought I heard something in the trees, my heart leapt, only to crash back down into silence. Days turned into weeks. Friends stopped calling as often, unsure what to say. Some whispered that maybe Mark had finally had enough. Maybe our marriage wasn't as perfect as it looked. Their words stung because part of me feared they were right. Lately, I'd noticed something different about him. The smiles were still there, but they didn't reach his eyes anymore. Then, weeks later, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. A quiet, trembling voice said, "Lena, it's me." I froze. "Mark." Tears filled my eyes as relief washed over me. "Where are you?" I demanded. "I'm nearby," he said softly, "but I need to see you first." We met at a small diner on the edge of town. He looked different, thinner, tan from the sun, with a quiet stillness about him that felt unfamiliar. I jumped up to hug him, but he didn't return the embrace. "Mark, what happened? Where were you?" I asked, my voice shaking. He stared into his coffee for a long moment before answering. "When you left me that day, everyone laughing, it hit me. You all thought it was funny to forget me. But I realized how invisible I'd become, to you, to everyone. I was just a fool in every story." His words cut deep. I tried to tell him it was just a stupid prank, that no one meant any harm. But he shook his head. "It wasn't just that day, Lena. It's been years of jokes, of never being taken seriously. That moment just made it clear I'd stopped being seen." I couldn't speak. The weight of guilt pressed down on me until I could barely breathe. He told me he'd walk for miles that afternoon, eventually finding shelter at a friend's cabin. He'd stayed there, thinking about everything, his life, our marriage, himself. "I needed to figure out if coming back made sense," he said quietly. "But I realized I still love you. That's why I came back, not for the joke to end, but for a chance to begin again." I broke down, apologizing through tears, but Mark only looked tired. "You can't undo it," he said softly, "but maybe we can learn from it." We drove home in silence that night. Everything in the house looked exactly as it had. The couch, the framed pictures, his unfinished book on the shelf. But everything between us felt different. In the days that followed, we talked more honestly than we ever had before. Mark told me about the loneliness he'd carried, how laughter had once been his shield, but had slowly become his reminder of being unseen. For the first time, I really listened. Months have passed since then. We no longer make jokes at each other's expense. Our laughter now feels softer, kinder, and sometimes, when I think about how close I came to losing him, I still shiver. That day taught me something I'll never forget. Love doesn't die from anger. It dies from neglect, from silence, from the moment someone stops feeling seen. Mark forgave me, but I haven't forgiven myself. Because when he came back, he wasn't the only one who'd changed. I had too. I finally understood that the people we call foolish are often the ones who hide the deepest hurt, waiting, just waiting, for someone to truly see them.